This is the Toyota bZ4X, the first of 70, yes, that's right, I said 70 vehicles that are going to be built on Toyota's new global eTNGA platform. Wow, that's a lot, but let's dig into this one first.
Before we start, let's talk about that name. BZ stands for Beyond Zero emissions, that is. The 4 stands for the vehicle size, and the X is about the all-wheel drive capability. Got it? Good. Yeah, I'll probably forget it again too.
So let's talk about the most obvious first, which is the exterior. So there are a couple of things that are a little bit confusing to me that are happening here. There are some character lines on the body panels that are all kind of intersecting in like sort of a weird place. I'm not sure that how I really feel about that. It looks a little disparate to me. There's also a pretty wide panel gap right here, which I know it's intentional. It just, to me, it looks like you could probably stick your hand in there and like lift up the hood, though you can't. But the biggest thing to me is this body cladding trim here. I'm not 100% sure what it's for. I don't know that I like it. I think it just stands out in kind of an awkward way. And I think especially here, as it kind of cuts across the door for the charging port, it just looks a little odd to me. Again, it's all really subjective, so tell us what you think in the comments.
The front fascia gets some squinty LED headlights and the non-grille front. High belt line, short greenhouse, a bit of a sloping, sporty roof make it very aerodynamic and kind of look very similar to other crossovers out there. And just for comparison's sake, it's got the same wheelbase as the Highlander. Overall, it's looking like what small SUVs look like these days. Remember I said it had the same wheelbase as the Highlander? Well, it's only got 2 rows, and that equals a ton more room for passengers. There's legroom galore in both the front and, more importantly, the second row. Headroom is good too. When it comes to fit and finish, there's a ton of fingerprinty piano black, which I'm not a massive fan of, but the dashboard is covered in fabric, which I do think is cool. The seats are very comfortable and supportive, and the panoramic sunroof is impressive and gives the cabin a very airy feel.
Okay, so now it's time to get in and drive the bZ4X. You know, just an aside, when it comes to that name, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna mess it up like a billion times in this video. So I really do hope that Toyota can actually come out and do some marketing to make that make sense and make it meaningful to customers so they know exactly what they're talking about. Maybe it's just a matter of repeating it a bunch of times. bZ4X, bZ4X, bZ4X.
You'll be able to purchase the bZ4X in either front or all-wheel drive. The front-wheel drive version comes equipped with a 150 kilowatt motor up front. The all-wheel drive version gets 2 80 kilowatt motors, one at the front and one at the rear. Those 2 motors in the all-wheel drive version will offer up more traction for you in inclement conditions. X Mode, a new all-wheel drive system for Toyota, is available on the bZ4X. If X Mode sounds familiar, that's because it's a Subaru feature, and yes, this is a joint venture with Subaru. X Mode has a grip control feature that, well, is going to give you some extra grip when it comes to driving on dirt or loose gravel roads with a snow dirt or a snow mud mode.
So first impressions of acceleration, you know, this actually has a little bit of like excitement in it. I'm driving the all-wheel drive version right now, has a 0 to 60 time of 6.5 seconds, so yeah, it's got a little bit of pizzazz.
The front-wheel drive version won't have quite the zip, but these power numbers aren't devastating when it comes to a car in this segment.
Steering feels pretty light, very artificial, pretty assisted, which is expected. As far as the ride goes, I feel pretty comfortable. I really have no complaints. It feels like a very Toyota-esque product.
No, there was no track driving, but the bZ4X handled some quick turns with composure and very little tire squeal. Nothing shameful here.
So when it comes to braking, the bZ4X does not go full one pedal. When you hit the regen button, it definitely pulls back a little bit. It feels more like you've just like attached a piano to the back side of it. But the brakes have a pretty decent feel to them. Certainly they work. But yeah, I mean, do I miss the one pedal braking? kind of. So completely lacking in fun and emotion? No. So when you're driving something like this crossover, I think more important than most people asking, how is it dynamically, how does it corner, what's the performance like, most people are more concerned with range. The all-wheel drive version gets 252 miles of range, and I think for the average driver, that's as much as you're gonna need.
In order to exploit that range as much as possible, there are a couple of systems in place that will address driver comfort without sacrificing range. There's a heat pump system for both the heat and the AC, seat and steering wheel heaters, and a radiant front seat foot and leg heater.
With a level 2 charger, you're going to be able to get a full charge in about 11 hours. DC charging is an option. With the all-wheel drive, it's going to take you about an hour to get a full charge, and with the front-wheel drive, it's about 30 minutes. Now, those may sound like kind of decent times, but when you look at how quickly the competitors of the bZ4X are charging, they kind of seem a little bit slow. And when it comes to EV charging, every minute counts.
Looking for other options in the category? Check out the Kia EV6, Hyundai Ioniq 5, or the Subaru Solterra, which shares a lot with this vehicle for obvious reasons. Toyota is partnering up with both ChargePoint and EVgo. That latter is a charging company that will give access to owners at DC fast charging stations. Buy a new bZ4X and get free charging for a year. Hopefully you live near one of their chargers, currently in 68 cities through 35 states.
So Toyota claims that battery degradation will only be about 10% over 10 years of ownership. And it does come with a warranty that is 8 years for 100,000 miles. You know what, as far as those warranties go, I think we're gonna have to wait for a decade to see if they really hold up and if they're really enough.
Safety is always a consideration when buying any car, and Toyota's Safety Sense 3.0 suite of safety features will come standard in the bZ4X. That includes systems like forward pre-collision alerts, blind spot monitoring, a new safe exit assist, and even a lane tracing mode, which should help you keep on the straight and narrow provided the lane lines are well drawn. And it gets upgraded forward-facing cameras. Prices start at $42,000 for the base XLE front-wheel drive trim. The top-of-the-line fully loaded all-wheel drive limited starts at $48,700. Expect deliveries into dealerships sometime in the fall for all 50 states.
bZ4X, bZ4X, bZ4X. Yeah, you say it a bunch of times and it gets a little bit easier. Look, the EV market is absolutely heating up, and I'm not 100% sure now that just being able to show up is going to be enough. But Toyota always manages to come in with whatever they've got in a big way, and usually a very reliable way. So that debate is going to be on. There is going to be so much to talk about with this one, so stay tuned.